In our contemporary world, many once common trades have dwindled or even disappeared. From telephone operators, typesetters, and log drivers, jobs and trades that were once essential in the American economy are gone, or a shadow of what they once were. In our Montana Moment, we meet a man who's working to keep a trade as old as time alive and thriving. Kevin Mackey reports.
In the hills above Kila, nestled in the timber off a winding gravel road, you'll find Wildlife, Montana. It looks like a trading post from 200 years ago. Inside, Brian Osterday displays the creations of his trade.
I'm a furrier. I make mittens, hats, boots, slippers, baby booties.
Jackets, blankets, earmuffs. The Furrier has about every kind of fur you can think of.
You got coyote. This is otter. This is badger here.
He has a lot of skunk pelts.
Believe it or not, I do a lot of skunk mitts.
Beaver is one of the most popular furs.
Up here we got a pair of beaver mucklucks. I'm the last person in the lower 48 states that make the fur mucklucks. Customers are trappers, hunters, people that just want to stay warm in the wintertime.
The hides are already tanned.
I've got several trappers that I buy my fur from. I've also got several fur buyers that I get fur from.
A lot of people trap their own animals, like this customer who had Brian make him these beaver mittens. Brian learned the trade from a furrier in Minnesota. He found he was cut out for it.
I liked the art. I like the drawing. I like the math. You got to take 25 or 30 hides, and you got to find the common number and to come out with your measurements. You have to create your own pattern.
Before moving to Montana, he practiced his trade in Minnesota, a state as cold or colder than Montana.
The hide is the key ingredient. The hide actually regulates the heat.
Sewing a beaver hat takes years of practice to perfect.
Everything has to be sewn, your inside out, because you don't want any of your stitch marks to be seen.
What fascinates him most is the history of fur.
Fur goes back to the beginning of man. That's what they wore. The fur trade actually started everything.
Brian says furriers were in every big city and in most small towns, especially in colder climates.
The furs were trapped, and taken into New York and shipped out on the harbors. The sewing manufacturers started to build sewing machines to sew up for fur garment.
Brian works on a vintage bonus fur sewing machine. He has a collection of sewing machines.
This here is an 1895. It's one of the first fur sewing machines that was invented.
These hats are popular with sports fans who want to showcase their favorite teams.
Bears, Chicago Bears. Montana, Bobcat.
Brian says used to be the furrier trade was passed on from generation to generation.
It's the younger generation basically just didn't take up a craft.
His son back in Minnesota, however, works in the industry.
So he knows how to sew fur. Hopefully my grandson will take that up afterwards.
The furrier business isn't what it used to be, but there is demand. From Kila, Brian sells to customers all over the country and all over the world. Where else would you expect to find a furrier, he says, but in the hills of Kila. Kevin Mackey, NBC, Montana.